So it's funny that last week we were talking about how you interviewed a lawyer who became a regulator, and this week we see Tan Sri Zeti, a regulator who has become an investment banker so far. Put it in that way, because she's the head of PNB now, right?
Well, investment manager, I suppose.
Was it, do you think, and you asked her this, is it a drastic shift for her?
It looks that way, right?
Yeah, it does.
Everyone knows who Tan Sri Zeti is. She's
Yes.
been at the central bank for 31 years,
Yeah.
and 16 years of that was as governor.
Yeah.
So throughout her entire career, she has been a regulator, a policymaker at
Yeah.
the central bank. And now, in retirement, she comes back and takes the chairman post at PNB, which manages investments and is basically an entity that focuses on generating wealth, making profit and returns on investments for its
Yeah.
unit holders.
Yeah, which you never had to think about as a regulator, right?
Yes, you were not in the business of making money as a regulator.
Yeah, you just made sure everything was on the straight and narrow.
Exactly. But when we talked to her, though, about how it can be drastic in terms of what she had to adjust to, she was saying that it's not really that different. There are similarities because, for one, at the central bank, she was managing some of the reserves, and they also dealt with liquidity management as well, and also some risk management. So there are parallels that she is drawing from. So it's, from that perspective, and from how she tells it, it wasn't as drastic as we would have thought from the outside.
But she's drawing also, and this is brought up quite a bit, she draws from her experience in Dana Harta as well, right?
Yes, yes. And Dana Harta, as we know, it was set up in the aftermath of the Asian financial crisis.
Yeah, to manage
This was
all of that.
before she was confirmed as governor. And if you recall, Dana Harta's mandate was to take over the NPLs, non-performing loans, the bad assets, the distressed assets, take it from the banks and work with them and see if you can recover as much value as you can. So she had experience with that, and I think that's part of a big resource of experience that she's drawing on at PNB.
Which will actually prove helpful as she tries to transform PNB into what it would be, as you say, that on the cusp of change, right?
Exactly.
Because the one thing that you do mention is that they are almost, I won't say scarily, but they're local. Their focus has always been very local. And now she talks about how like EPF has gone out, so she wants PNB to follow that path too. But here's the thing, right? If you ask me, I always thought PNB's mandate was always to just be local, you know? You can leave the other ways to like EPF, but that's not it? That's how it started, but it shouldn't be this way?
Well, in hindsight, I suppose, we have to remember, PNB is 41 years old. It was set up in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And that was a period in our country's history where we are at a stage where we are growing fast. We needed capital, we needed investments to grow our economy, to grow our businesses. And PNB, as well as the other institutions, were a form of mobilization of our savings and to channel them into activities that generate wealth.
Yeah.
So at that time, it made sense, because why would you invest in another economy, right? When your own economy could use the investments. But then, it's 2019, our economy has matured, our growth has stabilized a little bit, and also there are more risks associated with staying in one market, putting all your eggs in one basket. And that's where diversification comes in handy, and that's what she's looking at.
Has she given you any details as to what she's looking at?
I think it's about spreading your risk. She does emphasize quite a lot on protecting unit holders' interests.
Yes, she puts that. She says ultimately PNB must protect the people at home. So she is, you know, so she sees diversification not as something that will help do that, right? Because you can't stay in one place all the time.
Yeah, and if you look at how their portfolio is spread out, 97% of their asset under management is in Malaysia.
Yes.
And from that, about 71% is in the stock market.
Is in equities.
Which is a staggering exposure into one market.
Yeah, it's 2/3 of everything you're managing.
Exactly. And that's your concentration risk right there. You're in one market, and your results will probably go up and down with the market, which is not something you want to do.
Of course.
Yes.
For sure, especially given how the market's been sort of recently, and now if you look at, you know, the Fed had just said they're not going to raise any more rates this year. You know, the global central banks are indicating that things aren't great. It's good to kind of make sure that you don't have, you're not sort of like caught in sort of like one corner.
Exactly.
Right. And so, of course, as she's a Johor girl, as one Johor girl to another, it's nice to see that she's still as elegant as ever, even in her new role. But Amanah Saham guys have always been used to the high returns. When you sort of broach whether she'll be able to continue this, how did she answer?
In a nutshell, she says that's why she's doing all these transformation and diversification, and we're looking at the risk management framework.
Okay.
Although the interesting part is that a lot of people think the challenge for PNB is to sustain the return levels that has been historically been enjoyed by the ASB unit holders. But during the conversation, there was a couple of times when she referred to the performance of some endowment funds in the United States where the returns are in the double digit, in the high teens. And to me personally, it may be an implication or a hint that maybe it's not just about maintaining returns, it could be outperforming them. Exactly.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.